Okay, so melatonin is having a bit of a moment right now, and maybe not in the best way. You've probably seen these headlines popping up, linking it to some pretty scary health problems. Let's really dig into this, because it's a perfect example of how a headline can grab a complicated study and twist it into something that sounds way, way worse than the data actually shows. We're going to unpack the real story here.
Right? This is the kind of thing that just stops you in your tracks. An 89% higher risk of heart failure, double the risk of death. I mean, on the surface, that looks absolutely terrifying. And it came from a huge study looking at the records of over 130,000 adults. But what does a link actually mean in a study like this?
So that brings us to the big question. Should you be worried about your heart if you take melatonin? Well, the short answer is probably not for the reason you're thinking. The thing is, melatonin does have some real problems, but they have almost nothing to do with this headline. And that's what we're about to get into, the stuff you actually need to know.
All right, first things first, let's pull apart this study that kicked up all the dust. Honestly, once you understand how it was done, you'll see exactly why these headlines are so misleading.
This right here, this is the most important detail of all. This was an observational study. That means it just looks at a massive pile of data and finds patterns. It can't prove that one thing causes another. It can only show that two things seem to happen together. It's less like a lab experiment and more like being a detective, just looking for clues in old medical records.
And that gets us to the absolute heart of the matter, the massive difference between association and causation. Just because two things are connected, like, say, people taking melatonin and also having heart issues, that doesn't mean the melatonin caused the heart issues. Think about it. It could just be that people with really bad sleep problems, which we already know are linked to heart failure, are the very same people who are most likely to be taking melatonin. See the difference?
And that's exactly why this link is so shaky. For one, melatonin is sold over the counter, so its use is just massively underdocumented. The people in the study who had it written in their medical charts, they were probably the ones with the most severe chronic sleep problems. And we already know that poor sleep, all by itself, can be a cause of heart failure. So, is melatonin the bad guy here, or is it more of an innocent bystander, just a signpost for the real problem, which is terrible sleep?
Okay, so if heart failure isn't the big worry from the headline, what is? Let's switch gears and talk about the part of the melatonin story that almost never makes the news. This is where the actual issues are, and it all starts with what's really inside that bottle.
Just think about the dosage for a second. Every night, your brain produces this tiny, incredibly precise signal of about 20 to 40 micrograms of melatonin. But a typical pill you buy has 3, 5, even 10 milligrams. That means you could be flooding your body with a dose that's hundreds, sometimes thousands of times larger than it would ever make on its own. This is exactly why so many people feel groggy the next day. They just have way too much melatonin still floating around in their system when the alarm goes off.
But the dosage problem gets even weirder. It's not just that we're taking way too much, it's that half the time we have no idea how much we're actually taking. Why? Because the labels can be completely, wildly wrong.
So a study in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine went out and tested 31 different brands, and the results were just all over the map. Some pills had 80% less melatonin than the label promised. Others had nearly 500% more. And this isn't some niche problem, it happens with big, reputable brands. It makes it totally impossible for your body to get a consistent, predictable signal.
And if that wasn't bad enough, it gets worse. On top of the dosage being a total lottery, that same study found that a full quarter of the supplements also contain serotonin. Serotonin is a powerful neurotransmitter, and it just has no business being in an over-the-counter melatonin supplement. It points to some really serious quality control issues in the supplement industry. Okay, so the final big problem here is just a fundamental misunderstanding of what melatonin even does in the first place. Most of us are reaching for it to solve a problem it was never ever designed to fix.
This is probably the most crucial point. Melatonin is not a sleep switch. It is not a sedative. It doesn't knock you out. The reality is that melatonin is your body's darkness signal. That's it. Its only job is to tell your brain and all the systems in your body, hey, it's nighttime. It helps set your internal clock, your circadian rhythm. That's all it does. So if melatonin just signals darkness, what's the real problem for most people who have insomnia? Well, it often comes down to this thing called conditioned arousal. You know that feeling? You're tired all day, you get into bed, and suddenly your brain just switches on. You're wide awake, stressed, frustrated. That's conditioned arousal. Your brain has literally learned to associate your bed with being awake.
And that is the huge disconnect. Taking a melatonin pill doesn't do anything to calm down that stress response. It doesn't break that learned habit of your brain associating your bed with wakefulness. All it does is shout, "It's nighttime," a little bit louder, which, for most people struggling to sleep, isn't the part of the system that's broken.
So, if melatonin isn't the answer for most of these common sleep issues, what is? Let's walk through a super simple framework for actually improving your sleep, one that gets to the root cause. And the best part? No pills required.
Believe it or not, a good night's sleep actually starts the second you wake up. First, get up at the same time every single day. Yep, even on weekends. You can't always control when you fall asleep, but you can control when you wake up, and that single act anchors your entire body clock. And second, get outside for some real sunlight within about 30 minutes. This is like a powerful off switch for melatonin production, and it sets the timer for the next night's sleep.
And then throughout the day, a few simple habits can make a massive difference. You've heard them before, but they work. Stay away from caffeine at least 12 hours before bed. Its half-life is no joke. Be really careful with alcohol. Sure, it might make you feel sleepy, but it shatters your sleep quality later in the night. And try to eat your bigger meals earlier in the day and stop drinking fluids a couple hours before bed so you're not getting up all night.
And finally, you have to give your brain a proper wind-down routine. Start about an hour before you want to be asleep. Dim the lights, switch to warmer tones, put away the stressful stuff, the news, social media, work emails. Instead, build a quiet, predictable routine. Read an actual paper book, do some light stretching, or take a warm bath. That drop in your body temperature after a warm bath is a powerful, natural trigger for sleep.
So really, it all just boils down to this one question. For most of us, struggling with sleep is a software problem. It's about our habits, our environment, our learned associations. Melatonin is hardware, and as we've seen, it's often faulty hardware. And a lot of the time, it's not even the right tool for the job. By focusing on your software, your habits, you can finally address the root of the problem and build a real foundation for truly great sleep.